I started talking about the Sirian alliance in the paper before this one, in Genesis paper 8, in the hands of interdimensional star beings, but didn't define them very thoroughly. First we need to distinguish between the Sirian alliance and the Sirian Empire, which are two different things. The Sirian Empire consists of all the planets and star systems the Sirian overlords have managed to conquer, not only in this sector of the universe, but in other sectors and galaxies as well. They are the totality of star systems belonging to the Sirians. Their headquarters is the Sirian star system, approximately 8.7 light-years from Earth. The Sirian alliance are the star races who have joined the Sirians on their mission to conquer the 4% and the 96%. The alliance consists of the Sirian Empire and other star races as well, who are willing to accomplish this goal together with the Sirians, without necessarily belonging to the Sirian Empire. Planet Earth is one of many planets the Alliance is concentrating on at the moment, but one of their greater experiments, due to that Prince Ea put the fire of the goddess in the human soul, and from my understanding, we were the first group Ea experimented on in this way. The Mother Goddess in her physical manifestation, the Queen of the Stars, did the same thing on many other planets, prior to what her son Ea did here on Earth, but our planet was most probably the first world the Sirians and the Aryan Prince experimented with in this fashion. I am not familiar with all the star races who are rubbing shoulders with the Sirian overlords, but will mention a few here. The Alpha Draconians, after Sirius star system itself, Thuban, Alpha Draconis, seems to be the Sirians' most important base. It appears that this star was one of the first planetary systems the Dark Lords conquered. The inhabitants are different kinds of Draco-reptilian life forms, often giant in shape. These races are commonly mentioned in ufology and exopolitics as a cruel conquer race and deeply involved in Earth's history. This is very true to my knowledge as well, and the main group that is working closely with the Sirians here on Earth, especially with Enlil. In the Sumerian scriptures, they go under a common name, Kingu. The Draconian Albinos. Although their home planets are now orbiting Thuban, their royal clan, who are an albino Draco race, some with wings and horns, others without any of it, migrated to the Lyran star system, possibly when the Sirians came, or perhaps before. They are larger than all other Kingu, and are in Sumerian text known as the Kingubaber. They are creator gods in their own right and are the creators of other reptilian races, now spread out over Sector 9. The Babar are loners and opponents to the Sirians, although not directly human-friendly either. They are known to be aggressive and don't hesitate to kill, but don't have any direct plans to take over the universe, like the Sirian alliance does. They are present in our solar system on occasion, and the Sirians leave them alone, probably out of respect and fear. The Red Dracos. These are the ones in charge of the Draconians still residing in Draco. Most of the Dracos are these days willingly working with the Sirians, although there are rebel groups here too, as normally seems to be the case in occupied worlds. They have reddish skin, wings, horns, and tails. It's probably from seeing manifestations of this group we got the image of the devil. They are known to be ferocious soldiers, and often seen together with Sirians on occupied planets. They have their own governors in Thuban, but the whole Draco system falls under Sirian regime, and their governors answer to the Sirian government. The Green Dracos. These are the worker class, obedient to both the Red Dracos and the Sirians. They are considered a lower caste and simply do as they are told. They are not trained warriors like the Red, but they are still territorial, which is a common reptilian trait, and would get hostile if provoked, and definitely if they were ordered to. The Vegans. Most vegans are not in alliance with the Sirians, but there is a rebel group here as well, who were manipulated into joining the Sirian group. The vegans are otherwise very skilled creator gods, and have seeded many planets in this sector of the universe. It's an old race, probably one of the first in the Milky Way galaxy. On their home planet, they look similar to the Vulcans in Star Trek, and is probably where the idea to the Vulcans come from. Most vegans are still residing in the Vega system and have nothing to do with this rebel group. The Andromedans. This is a little bit shadier, but it looks like there is a rebel group here too, who followed the Sirians on their mission and who now embrace the patriarchal movement. This rebel group would possibly be the group Alex Collier was in contact with. Normally, the group called the Andromedans are part of the Orion Empire and know that the universe is feminine. The reason I believe Collier's group is a rebel group belonging to the Sirian Alliance is because they tell us that God is masculine. If they are Andromedans, they know better than that, but are playing the patriarch game together with the Sirians. There is also a chance that the Andromedans Alex was meeting could have been Sirians in disguise, showing themselves off as Andromedans. Therefore, I was a little reluctant to mention them here, but decided to do so with the above disclaimer. The Greys. Here is another shady group. The Greys, as a species, is apparently pretty common in the universe. LPGC call them Saurians, and author George Lobueno mentions them in his book, Alien Mind, as a very common template in the universe. Lobueno himself, however, was basically in contact with a hostile group he calls the Divergents, originating from a star system in a galaxy 14 million light-years away, but since then have spread out quite remarkably over this part of the universe, being on a mission of conquest and expansion. Many other researchers and contactees are describing the Greys as well. We know of a Grey group, which I discussed quite extensively in Level 1, originating from Lyra, on a planet called Apex. This group was basically a friendly, benevolent race who minded their own business until the Verdants came and invaded them. The Apexian Greys were then, just like we humans on Earth, heavily genetically re-engineered and manipulated, until they became more of an android race. The story of the Apexian Greys can be read in detail in my Genesis Paper 1, Human Origins and the Living Library, but to make a long story short, due to a nuclear war, the planet Apex was not only thrown out of orbit, but also disappeared into a black hole and reappeared in a totally different star system, which we call Zeta Reticuli, many light-years away from Vega. I got this pretty much confirmed by LPGC as well. Somewhere along the line, these Greys were being invaded again, this time by the Sirians, and once again genetically manipulated. Eventually, they became foot soldiers and servants to the Sirians. These Greys are not necessarily into conquering the universe, but are more like slaves to the Wolfen/reptilian race. To make things even more complicated, it seems like human genetic engineers have picked up on how resilient the bodies of the original Greys are, and have used their genetics to create a human/Grey hybrid, whom people have seen here on Earth, particularly around military bases.
It's quite evident that the Sirians have a hand in helping humans create this hybrid race, because they are often seen together with Sirians. Anonymous whistleblowers have said that the Greys who are created here on Earth are meant to be used mainly as astronauts for the shadow government, due to that their body template is the only one so far that they have found resilient or resistant enough to endure radiation and other obstacles in space that human bodies have had a hard time with while space traveling, making it impossible for human bodies to stay in space for more than a short time. So the Grey situation is quite complex, and it's not obvious who is who. For us humans it is not of that much importance. However, because the ones seen in our solar system are not benevolent, and work either for our government, with the Sirian overlords, or both. We know that not all Greys are recently engineered human/Grey hybrids, because the Greys were mentioned already in the Sumerian script. Because the Greys were mentioned already in the Sumerian scriptures as the Mimanu, and have been seen on Earth by different cultures over the centuries. They are said to have lived underground, and the American Indians call them the Ant people. The Pleiadians. Again, we have a rebel group of Pleiadians who started working with the Sirians, or more specifically, Princiae. They are giants, often referred to as the bird people and the bulls, Taurus. We know from the Pleiadians firsthand, Marciniak's group, that they are giants. They hint at heights from 7 feet up to 300 feet. The Pleiadians also admit to being the fallen angels in the Bible, who came here to copulate with human females, but also helped Ea and Nin with enhancing the human genome, using Pleiadian DNA. This resulted in the biblical giants, who roamed the earth around the time of Noah and before, the Nephilim. Some of them survived the deluge, as well, and became the Rephaim. Although these giants may be extinct today, their creators, the Pleiadian rebel group, are still working with the Sirians. According to themselves, they did not evolve in the Pleiades, but came there much later. The Pleiadian group, which has been involved in Earth history, originated in Lyra, only to later migrate to Ursa Major, and finally ended up in the Pleiades, on the planet Dooku in the Maya star system in particular, but also on a planet around the blue star, Electra. The Ashta Command. There are websites on the internet where they say they are channeling the Ashta Command. This group of ETs are simply the Pleiadians in present time, who are manipulating the channeler into thinking they are ascended masters coming down to help us in our struggle. We see a lot of this kind of channeling today, and I ask the reader to be very selective with whom you associate with when it comes to alien species. There are certainly good ETs out there who wish us well, but if they contact us, they all have one thing in common: they tell us that we are our own saviors and should not expect any alien race coming down to Earth and do the job for us. We need to break the God spell and claim our sovereignty as biological and spiritual beings, and this is exactly the message a good intended alien species would have. They can't wake us up for us. And if they would come down today and tell us they were here to guide us and tell us what to do, it's going to be another human/God relationship, or they would most likely be attacked by the PTB, who would successfully manipulate many of the citizens into thinking these ETs are here to invade. The gargoyles. We see them everywhere on the top of old churches and cathedrals and is a typical Catholic symbol. Statues of them can also be seen elsewhere, often guarding entrances to sacred or mysterious sites. People often think that they are made up in someone's imagination, but we know that is rarely the case, almost without exceptions. Statues and artifacts of strange and mysterious creatures have bases in reality. In the Sumerian scriptures, these gargoyles were sometimes called musker, which means furious reptile, Pazuzu in Assyrian, and were winged dragons with horns and tails, looking quite threatening in their appearance. Like so many others of the star races of the Sirian alliance, the gargoyles, too, originate in Lyra, and a second race was genetically engineered on Dooku in the Pleiades at a later time. There may be more star races in the Sirian alliance, but these are the ones I am aware of. If the reader knows of more, feel free to email me, email address on the contact page of my website. Please also include a reference, or references, to where you found the information.